In this video, we're going to continue working on our building. We're going to make some things easier for us. So if you open your floor plan to level 1, and then you hover over the walls, but what we want to do is we want to get this slab here. So it'll be hard to kind of tab into it because the slab should be aligned to the face of the stud. So since it's harder to tab to it, we can just window over, just click and drag to get the window. And then use this filter up here on the Modify tab. And uncheck stacked walls. And just leave floors checked. And so that's an easy way to grab something if you can't tab into it. And then go to Edit Boundary. What we're going to do is get our Align tool. We're going to hover over that bottom magenta line and then tab once until we get the exterior brick wall. You can see we're actually on top of the magenta line, but we've actually are selecting the brick wall. We can see we're selecting the face of that core wall. So hit tab once to select that, and then you can hit the magenta line again, and then we're going to lock it. So when you do that, you can see that there's a lock. So go around each corner and try to lock all these lines to that face of that wall. So here, yep, so I've got that exterior wall. If you have a problem seeing what you're actually tabbing to, if you leave your cursor alone for a bit, you can see how it's highlighting there. Right next to the cursor, it says Sketch, Modify, Model Lines, Reference. If you hit it, tab, and then leave the cursor there, you can either look in the bottom left corner, you can see basic wall, exterior, brick, and cement, so you know what you're actually selecting. Select that, and then you can align to that and then lock it. We'll go up top and do the same thing. Go to the top right corner, hover over, tab, get that exterior cement plaster wall, and then align your magenta line to it. That's your model line or your boundary. Your boundary for the floor slab. So here you can see that I've got if I were to pick, I would select the brick wall, and you can see which layer I'm aligning it to, and then you pick it and then lock it. So once you've done that, we've now locked all of our lines. And if you were to pick one of the lines, you can see that it shows you which ones are locked. So if you hit the green check to go back in there, now if we were to move this wall, our floor will move with it. We're going to want to do that in each floor. So let's go to level 2. Level 2 will be a bit different because we put our slab edge 1 inch away from the back of this chipboard. So if you double click or go up and hit Edit Boundary on the Modify tab, it'll be a little bit different. We'll hit DI for dimension or go to the Annotate tab. You get a line dimension, grab the magenta line, and then pick the back layer of this chipboard. And then we can lock that dimension. It's saying that it over-constrained the sketch, and that's because I'd actually already done that here. So I went and added a 1 inch dimension here to lock this floor with this wall. Check the top corner, and it did the same thing up here. So I added a dimension and then hit the little lock, so now that it should lock. Don't attach the walls, and so now you can check it by just moving your wall up, and you can see that the floor did follow along with it. So the other thing we'll do in here, and let's see if I did it already, is we'll do the same thing for the stair opening. So it looks like I did. So I did the same thing where I hit Align, AL, or up in the Modify tab, you can hit Align. Select the face of the chipboard on this instance, and then hit that. And then make sure they're all locked. Let's go check the bottom one. I haven't done it here, so go up here, hit line, grab the face of the gypboard, and then lock it in place. Here I had the tab to get that interior wall, and then I'll lock that in place. And then we'll do the last one here. And don't attach when it asks you. And then when you move it, you can see that the slab opening actually moves with the wall. And you can check all 4 sides if you want to be sure. This is so if we move the stair, we can actually, if we move all of this, we can move it all and not have to worry about the slab being left behind. So let's go up to level 3 and do the same thing. So I just zoom into the corner, grab the slab, either double click or hit edit boundary. And then, yep, it didn't look like I did. So we'll hit DI or annotate tab and align dimension and select all of these. This is something I should have thought of to do when we first laid this out, but that's okay. It's always good to remember and go back and do that because it just makes things easier later on. So hit DI, pick the magenta line and the back face of the wall, click the little lock, and do the same thing on this other corner. So now our slab is locked into 1 inch from the back of wall. And then let's do this for the align and lock the slab opening. Lock. And we'll do the further south stair. And it's always good to check, although you can't see it, or I can't point to it, but you can see that it highlights there what I'm actually selecting, or down here in the corner where it says right now, it says please select a new reference. For alignment or control to keep aligning to the current reference, you can see that if you look down there, it'll show you what you're hovering over. So now it shows me I'm aligned to the stair reference. And so it's showing right now, I'm highlighting that if I hit a line, if I click right now, it'll hit to the 6 1/8 partition. Hit OK, hit the lock. I just select them all to make sure. Select all these. Does not look like I did that one, so let's do this face. And lock it. Now theoretically, if I move that, it's going to say, hey, these constraints are not satisfied, so I know I'm locked in there too. But if I were to go out of here, don't attach, move this wall, it should move along the slab with it. So let's go back in here because it looks like that last one didn't lock to the wall. I'm going to hit align. I probably aligned to the stairs. You can see it's a symboled stair. So I'll make sure I get that 6 1/8 partition and lock it. Don't attach. And now it works. Okay, so I am a compulsive saver, so it's always good to save just in case things go awry. Let's go to the level 4 and do the same thing. So zoom into the corner, tab in, DI for dimension, pick that inside face, lock the dimension, and do the same thing on the other side of the corner. Lock and lock. Let's take care of the stairs. I know a lot of times this stuff can seem tedious, but welcome to the wild world of drafting. That is what it is. It's often drafting can be tedious, so just depends on, you'll get used to it. I often will listen to music or listen to an audiobook if I've got a lot of this kind of stuff to do. The nice thing about this, though, that Revit allows us to do is, even though it can be tedious up front, it saves us a lot of time at the end. So, like, if we were, and we probably are going to move these stairs, so it's always good to get these things done ahead of time, even though it might seem like a pain, to save us time later on if we were to move the stairs. Alrighty, so let's go to the roof. DI for dimension. And we're not seeing the layers on the roof because the roof, where our cut level is too high, so you wouldn't see our roof here. Let's see, I'm going to hold off on locking these in until we get walls up here. And I think we're probably only 2 feet above the roof, so if you did want to see your layers at the roof, you'd probably do like a 1.6 cut line so you could see the layers. And we can actually go back and check just to make sure. Yep, we got that back face, because that should have been the back face of the chipboard. I'm going to change my cut plane back to 4 feet or whatever it was, so we'll actually see the top of the wall here. And I'm going to close all these plans. And let's see, let's do something else here too. So here's our level 1 plan. And so what we're seeing here in these layers is we're seeing, I'm going to throw some dimensions on here. So we're seeing a 5/8 inch wall, 6-inch stud, another layer of 5/8. And then we're seeing the air gap here. To add another dimension, I'm just hitting edit witness line up here. It says edit witness line. It basically puts you back in the dimension command as though you were adding a new string of dimensions, so that these are all locked together. And this should be 3 5/8 for that brick. And then what we can't see right now is below we have our, below the brick, we have our CMU wall, which is being covered up by this sweep. So let's go ahead and turn that off for right now. So we can do that in the visibility graphics and go down to walls. And I believe we can turn off wall sweeps. Let's see. Nope, that didn't work. So let's see if we can if there's anything else on here that'll let us turn that off. So common edges, wall sweeps, cornice. I'm not sure what that is, but that's okay. So what we're missing here, or we have, so let's go to our section and we'll toggle our views to be side by side, or tile views. So what we're seeing is that concrete cap below here. We're seeing this guy here. And so that's what that is here. So we've actually dimensions our 5/8 inch chipboard, which is sheetrock or drywall. It has all those names that it's really, referenced to it. So it's usually 5/8 for commercial buildings, 6-inch metal stud. Instead of a wood stud, we're using metal studs. Another 5/8 for exterior chipboard, and 3-inch airspace, and then here's our brick. And then this last layer here is this stone cap that we're showing here. And so what I do want to do though is go to our elevation. So we looked at our layers. And so what I do want to do is take the dimension. So the standard brick coursing that we're showing is 8 inches. And so what we want is for the brick to be even, so that it's 4 inches from this side. And same thing with the CMU. So if we take a dimension, not from that little dashed line, because that dashed line is actually the wall, but we want the actual detail line for the brick, and make sure that that's 8 inches and 4 inches. So brick coursing is 8 inches wide, and these CMU blocks are actually 16 inches wide. So if you're on your west elevation, come to the left side and take those dimensions. If they are not the 4 inches, you can actually grab these and see I can move the pattern over. So what you'd want to do is you could, when you throw a dimension on this last course, once you select it, if you tab in to select that one, you could change it. So I could make this 8 inches. And so it doesn't matter other than it changes where this starting. So you see there's a full brick here. If I made that 4 inches, then the bottom course starts with a half brick. And so I'll do the same thing here. So we got 8 inches. So, and that's fine. That's all we want. So we want to go down to the other end. And you can see I'd already put dimensions on here. I'll still delete them for now. What we want is our building to be spaced such that they could get a full course on both of these here. And so we'll see if we can do that. So in this elevation view, we can window over because we know we can grab that wall beyond, hit our filter, uncheck dimensions, and now we've selected just that wall. And if you come up here and hit activate dimensions, it'll allow you to activate that last dimension. And then we can change that wall to be that dimension. So it's giving me an error that says can't change the segment to this value. I'm going to just try it again to make sure. Here, I'm going to move this west elevation over to this side so I can actually see what I'm doing here. Trying to get this, getting these windows locked in can be a problem sometimes. So let's see, this should be the west wall, and it is. So if I were to move this wall just by hitting MV, those numbers should change. And they do, or they did not. Let's see. Oh, I see why. So my dimensions are in here. I am actually snapped to the wall, not the pattern. That's why it wasn't working. So I'm going to select the face of this wall, and I'm going to select the pattern, not the, make sure you have the pattern select, not the wall. And we'll try this again just to make sure that works. So I went into my plan view and I selected that wall. And So I'm going to hit activate dimension, and I'm going to now try. Nope, still isn't working. I'm going to try to grab the 8 inches instead. Activate dimension. Going to change. Let's expand this error. It's always fun because it was working earlier, so now I have to figure out why it's not working. Just going to try to manually move and plan that 1/8 of an inch that we're missing there. And yes, I added an 1/8 of an inch. Align, come over to this side and just align. So yeah, now we've got our 4 inches. And interestingly, I think that we should take note of is we have 4 inches here, but really we want an 8 inches for our CMU block. So we have a nice return for our bricks, but our CMU, we're going to have a weird, like half of a width block here at the end. And maybe they can, I'm trying to think. So as you can see, what I'm trying to do is if I have the blocks are going to be stacked. Let's go to a 3D view and I can demonstrate this hopefully. Or let's stay in this plan view. Go to massing and site. Go to in place mass. Close. And hit yes. And this will be an in place mass at level 1. I'm going to come up here to the model line, grab rectangle. And so what do we say there? 16 inches by 8 inches. So we'll make that. So what we're doing is we're actually making a solid. And so it wants us to create a form. So what I did, so you can select it all together, or if you hit a tab, you can get the little dimension lines to change it. After you've made it 8 by 16, go ahead and select any one of the lines with nothing else selected and then hit create form. And let's go to a 3D view. And now we've created a CMU block, as it were. And let's set our work plane. So up here at the top, set the work plane to the bottom. I'm going to throw on a dimension, hit DI for dimension. try to get this. Actually, here, maybe this might be an easier way. Select this block, hit left, and basically go ahead and hit finish mass. And I'm going to hit the align tool. I'm going to try to align to the block beyond here. You can see and then let's see what width is this block. We actually go to your plan view and hit edit view range, and then make that 3 feet for the cut plane, so we can see the CMU block below. Okay, so we're showing the CMU block as 5 5/8, so 6 inches wide, not 8. So what we can do here, throw on a dimension in plan view, select that. It'll activate the dimension, and we'll make that 6 inches wide. So what we can do is move this to that corner, and you can see I'm going to copy another one over and rotate it. Come over here, my 3D view, and I'm just move this up. And so ideally using a full course of brick, that's the dimension we'd want to see. We want, for the CMU block, we would want this end to be 6 inches from here. So let's try to adjust this one, because we're not using 8-inch, we're using 6-inch. So let's change that to 6. See if that helps us out. I think it will. All right, that's much better. So our end block will be 6 inches on both sides for our CMU. And then they'll actually have to cut off about 2 inches of this longer block. But I think that's better than trying to cut them down the middle. So this would be an accurate layout for them to be able to lay out the brick. So if you can imagine, what it would look like in 3D. Is they're going to stack this CMU at this corner, and they'll have to trim off some of this block, and I think that's okay. As you can see, I'm working in 3D view. I just hit the little view cube up left, and I can just copy and work like I'm working on an elevation. And so this is just a sample of how they would just kind of get in your mind what we're thinking about when we're laying out a building dimensions. So although we laid it out as 100 by, what do we do, 100 by 200? We're going to adjust it even more just to make sure that it will lay out in a somewhat nice way for the mason when he comes out, that he'll have this end will be in somewhat of a nice masonry unit dimension. So let's see on this side. Let's go back to our west elevation. So yeah, we've got 6 inches there. And we'll throw a dimension on this corner to the full block and 1'2". So yeah, it looks like what we'll have based on our wall type is they'll have to cut these long bricks 2 inches off the long bricks on the ends. But at least our coursing for our brick will be nice. And I think the best way to fix that would be to, if we were to edit this stacked wall, if we were to edit the actual wall type in here, this exterior CMU, give it a bigger airspace. I don't know how this will work, but I'm just trying it out. So if we give it a 5-inch airspace, will that make it work? Let's see. It just did an inch on both sides, so I don't think that's going to get her done. We need to really, we would want this to be 1'4". Want this to be 4 inches. I'm going to try to move this over another 2 inches. And I think we'll leave well enough alone. So I'm going to hit some undos just to make sure I get that undone enough to put everything back to the way it was before. But you can kind of get what I'm talking about, so that we can get a nice coursing stacked on both sides. You'd have to play with the width of the building so that you could get a nice coursing for the mason. So we'll leave that off for now, but we'll go through and check all the sides to make sure we've got this 4-inch and 6-inch and the 1'2", and so that the entire building is equal. I'm going to delete these that I was drawing for an example. Make sure they're all gone. So those are an in-place mass. You could do them with me, or it didn't matter. Just kind of showing you another thing you can do in Revit here. Just going to make sure. I think the biggest thing for construction is consistency. So when they lay these out, it's easy for them to tell where they're going. So let's go to our south view. If your window is big, your crop view is way out, go ahead and on your properties palette, click the crop view and crop region visible. Go ahead and you'll see the little lines, black lines come up. You can just double click on the crop view, hit tab once to select all of them, hit delete, and then just draw a new crop region in. It's a lot easier than zooming way out to try to get the ends and drag it. So let's throw on some dimensions on our elevations here to do the same kind of process. So we're finding the edge of the building, and then we're finding our brick course here, and we will align. So AL, or come up here to modify tab and hit align. Select any of these and make sure that it's aligned to the end so that we have a full course. And then we'll do the same thing down here. We want that to be 6. So go ahead and tab in to grab that line. Now I think the better way, so we're using a 8-inch tall by 16-inch wide by 6-inch deep masonry. If you were to use the 8-inch block, then this might work better because they would be in the same 4-inch dimension, which that might actually be the best way to go. But for now, we're just going to line these up just so that you can fix them and we can get an overall dimension that we like, and we could change it later. So here I'm getting 5 7/8 and 3 7/8. So let's select this back wall again. You can window over here, go to your filter, uncheck dimension, and do stacked walls. And let's move it over 1/8 of an inch. Hit align, and then align this. Oops, let's align a different one. Actually, we'll just select this line, hit 4 inches, make this 6 inches, and then we'll zoom to the other side to make sure that those are still 4 and 6. Yep. Alrighty. Now what we'll do is we'll go to the other side. So we did the west and the south. So now the east and the north should be good. We'll get in here to turn on our crop view, and crop region visible. You can either zoom out and try to grab it and drag it, but I find that takes too long. I just zoom in. I can pick on the crop region here. Tab once. So hover over the magenta line, tab once, delete, get your rectangle, and draw a new crop region around it. And so now theoretically, we can throw a dimension on here. Select the line, make it 6 inches for the CMU coursing. And what do we do? 4 inches for the brick coursing. Always save when it reminds you. And then we'll make sure this is 1'2". Oops, wrong one. And 8. And since we've already adjusted the length of the building, this side should now automatically be lined up. So we should get the 4 inches and the 8 inches, the 6 and the 1'2", 1'2". And let's check out our north side. You can check crop region visible. I'm going to go to my visibility graphics and turn off the site. Just going to double click on the crop view, hover over the dimensions line, tab once, hit delete, grab the rectangle. Zoom into any corner, any side, and just align any of the hatch. Throw a dimension on them just to double check. So this one we have 8, but we want that to be 6. Oops. We want that to be 6. So we should get that on the other side without having to do anything because we've already moved the building. And there we have it. So we've lined up all of our building corners so that we have equal distribution of brick across the face. So now when we start putting in windows, we have to think about that we would want to put in windows within a spacing that hopefully works with these bricks. You can see how they line up here at these points. So you would want to put your window opening such that it would line up with the coursing. So that, again, it's less work for the mason. It's also less materials, because if you're wasting a bunch of weird brick cuts, then that just costs a lot of money and wasted material. So architect and even the drafter can kind of plan these things out ahead of time so that it makes it easier for installation, which is really valuable to keep building costs down and to keep things actually going quicker as well. It saves time, money, and materials. And what I'm doing here is I'm just selecting all instances visible in the view, right-clicking on the dimensions just to get rid of the dimensions that I have put on here because I don't want them anyway. I don't need them anymore. So I can right-click, select, right-click, select all instances visible in view. Make sure you don't select an entire project because if you have dimensions anywhere else, it'll delete those. Which is usually bad for everyone's health. Right-click, select the dimension, right-click, select all instances visible in view, and hit delete. Obviously, we wouldn't want to do that if we had other dimensions in here. So there you have it. We locked in our floor lines with the walls so that our floors move with the walls. So all those moves that we made, fixing our dimensions. Let's go to level 2 just to be sure. And I can just close these other ones. And even though I moved those walls slightly to kind of adjust for the brick coursing and the CMU coursing, they'll still be an inch because we locked them in. Now our overall dimensions will now have changed. So whatever dimensions you had before, whether you did, we can do from the, let's do the interior dimensions for right now. from interior face to interior face. I've got 199.25 in the north-south direction and 99.25. So I think that's the dimensions we'll want to end up with. And then in the next video we'll locate our site, our project base point, at the corner of one of the sides of our building. We're gonna rotate the project north, because this is not a good way to. It's hard to put this on a sheet because our sheets run landscape, and this is in the opposite direction. So what we can actually do is rotate the project itself without. We'll tell it that project north is a different direction. We're going to actually rotate the entire project so our building will sit, or our plans will sit differently than it actually sits on the site, just because it'll be easier to put on a sheet. But we'll get into that in the next video. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll see you in the next one.